Well, let's get going. Welcome to your full body yin. You will need a couple of props if you really want to melt into the sensations of release today. So I have a strap, but if you don't have a strap, a tie or a scarf or anything like that can be used as a replacement. So a blanket or a large bolster or a firm pillow and some yoga blocks. And once you have everything you need, we're going to just jump right in. So go ahead and take your blanket and we're going to unfold it so you have a decent rectangle amount of fabric. And we're actually going to roll that up like you would roll up a burrito. Now we're going to come onto our backs and I'm going to invite you to have your strap handy. We're not going to need it for this first posture, but we will be coming into it for the second, so that way you can kind of just stay towards the floor will be nice. Go ahead and grab your bolster or your pillow, and that's going to go under the knees. Now the roll is to support the scapular region or the shoulder blades. So go ahead and set yourself up, bolster supporting knees and the roll supporting the shoulders. And then your head's just going to fall back so it'll feel like the chest is cascading downwards. And then find a gentle cactus shaping through the arms. So there's a little bit of a back bend created through the upper thoracic, more through the chest region where you might feel that. And then the low back is supported with the bolster underneath the knees. So this is where we're going to start our practice with this pretty deep opening for the anterior or the front body. And just feel yourself getting set up. And once you feel like everything's in the right spot, soften through the shoulders, soften through the brows and the jaw, soften through the legs, maybe even wiggle them a couple times so they can just kind of hang naturally off from the hips. And in a yin class, you're in each posture for a few minutes, allowing gravity and the props to support you in your stretch. So just looking for a little bit of sensation, definitely not the biggest stretch or back bend. And then if you have a pranayama or a breath practice that feels really beneficial to you, I invite you to go there. Or maybe it's just counting a simple breath, maybe 4 or 6 counts on your in breath and a 6 to 8 count on your out breath. It's something that will allow you to really melt into your floor and keep you present in this moment with some kind of focus. Notice if there's tension anywhere in the body that you can soften. And again, if you notice your mind wandering, just lovingly, non-judgmentally bring it back to focusing on the breath. Notice the sensations throughout the shoulders and the chest. And take 2 more deep breaths here. And then slowly bring your arms down. Now we're going to work this rolled blanket to being under the neck. So there's several ways you can get there. I like to just place my feet on the edge of my cushion and push that away. And then I'll actually just scooch down a couple inches. But if you prefer to sit up and rearrange yourself, that can be helpful too. But however you'd like to get there, we're just going to slide the roll so it's under the neck. Now here's where your strap might come in hand, so just have that handy. Whenever you're ready, you've got the bolster roll underneath your neck. I invite you to bring both knees into your chest. Now, once the knees into the chest, we're going to cross at the thigh. So bring your right leg on top of your left. So you're already in this crisscross position. Now, you can do a couple of things here. You can grab the feet or the ankles and use your hands to support you. Or if you have that strap, we're going to take the strap around the left foot, so the right leg is on top, but we'll take it around the left foot and straighten the left leg up, and then use the strap to gently open through the hamstring, but to also hold the legs in place. So decide what variation feels the most helpful for you, and feel free to take away or add whatever feels really authentic or intuitive for your body. And in this shape, we'll only be here for about half the time, so about 90 seconds, and then we'll come into the other side. So hopefully feeling an initial release through the hips and the hamstring, softening through the chest and shoulders. And coming back to that relaxing breath. Now, if you are practicing without the strap, I invite you just to switch legs. But if you have the strap, slowly release your right leg to replace your left, and then wrap that left thigh around the right thigh, and just come right into the other side. And take a couple more deep breaths here on this side. And then, however you'd like to come out of it, I like to release my wrapped leg, so the left leg, and then bend the right leg. And you can set your strap off to the side if you were using that. And then just gently windshield wiper the knees side to side, like you're gently massaging your low back and your hips. And so we've had a little bit of release for the front body, a little bit for the back. So we're going to move into the side body. So go ahead and roll onto your side so we can press ourselves up and set up for our next shape. So for this one, I invite you to use your bolster. However, if it doesn't feel comfortable, feel free to just stack a couple of blankets, as the bolster being thicker might not feel as comfortable. If you still have that rolled blanket, I'm going to invite you to unroll and just fold it a couple of times. Now, it's going to go right underneath the side of your waist, so think around your ribs. And the blanket is going to go towards where the head will be, but it'll be a little low, so I invite you to also bring a block, placing the block right on top of the blanket. So we're going to come into a little bit of a supported side bend with a shoulder release. So as you to get ready, head and just place that bolster right in the side waist. The bottom arm is going to come between the two props. Now you can orient the block on whatever setting feels the most supportive, but you do still want to have the sensation of creating a side bend. So try not to have the block where we're going to have the head lifted above. You still want that sensation of the head almost cascading downwards like a waterfall. Once you have all of that, we'll take the top right arm overhead. Just let the arm rest on the head and then hand onto the floor. And if the hand doesn't reach the floor comfortably, grab another blanket or a block to place under the hand so you can rest that there. So every part of your body is just being held with some kind of a prop. And once you find the position that feels really inviting for your body, come back to some kind of restorative breath that feels really helpful for you. And we're going to be here for a few minutes. So if something doesn't feel quite right, feel free to make an adjustment so you can really allow yourself to come into stillness. It's the duration of time and stillness that really helps the fascia release. And that's what we really want to find in a yin class, is this therapeutic effect for the body and the mind. So while the body's doing its thing and you're just being a passive observer here, I invite you to really focus on the breath so we can also find that homeostasis for the nervous system. And every time you notice your mind wandering, bring it right back to focusing on your breath. Just take 2 more deep breaths here. And very gently, before you change anything else, release this top extended arm. And just take a moment as your shoulder rebounds back. And then placing that top hand on the bit of bolster in front of you, press yourself up. And then take a moment to land. Notice the different sensations on each side of the body. And then come into the other side. So feel free just to roll over if you like. I'm just going to change my sound so I don't back to you for the whole time. But again, you want that pillow right in the side of your waist. Then that bottom arm is onto the floor, and then you've got your blanket, maybe even your blanket and block finding the side of the head. So you're still in this side bend shape. And then take that top arm overhead with the upper arm resting on the head and then the hand onto the floor. And again, we'll be here for a few minutes. So once you find your position, come back to your breath. take 2 more deep breaths here. And then before you change anything else, just release this top arm, coming out of that shoulder release. And then using that top hand to press yourself up back to a seated shape. And again, just take a moment to notice. Hopefully the body feels a little bit more evened out. And we're going to come into a variation of child's pose to release to the hips and the low back. So if you still have your blanket and block set up, I'm going to invite you to leave that exactly as it is. And then set one end of your bolster up so you're just kind of creating a little bit of a ramp. From here, we're going to take the knees pretty wide, big toes together like you're framing the bolster with your knees. And then slowly come into this pose variation. Now, if this extension doesn't feel good on the neck or anything like that, feel free to change it. You can take the blanket and block out from underneath of you. You can even bring them the opposite way, so it's a descending sensation, which might feel more inviting. But just play around. If it doesn't feel quite inviting, play around with something that does. And then when you're ready, allow the body to come back into that stillness and just settle in. And we're about halfway through on this one, so if you want, you can come onto the opposite cheek just to even out the sides of your neck. And then walk your hand underneath of you and press yourself up and back. And set your bolster off to the side. I'm going to do just a quick release for the front of the hips. So for this one, it can be really helpful to have 2 yoga blocks. We're going to basically just be coming into an imitation of a lizard. So stepping the right foot forward, keeping that left knee back. Now you have a lot of options here as you drop the hips. You can stay up on the hands, or you can come onto the forearms, whatever feels more inviting. But this one, just like the earlier one with the strap, will only be here for about half the time, about 90 seconds. So once you find that initial sensation through the hip, I invite you just to stay and linger in that stillness. This one's really helpful for the iliopsoas or the hip flexor region, inviting it to open and stretch. And for a lot of us, we sit for a living, so that compression. So this might be a little intense. And if it's too intense, back off a little bit. But if you can, take those deep breaths and relax into it. slowly, if you came onto the forearm, come back up onto the hands. And then use your hands to push the hips back to come out of this. So rather than trying to re-engage the hips after they've been in that deep stretch, use the arms to do the majority of the work. Take a deep breath at the back. And when you're ready, step the left foot to the outside of the block. And again, melt your hips and decide what feels, staying up on the arms and different side to side. And that's okay. Just listen to your body, adjust accordingly. And then again, if you came onto the forearms, slowly walk back up onto the hands and use your arms to push the hips back. Slowly releasing and just taking a moment, maybe sitting back on the heels if that feels okay in your body, to just release. And we're going to come into one more yin shape, but we're going to be here for a while because we're also going to add in some acupressure spots. So for this one, I'm going to invite you to grab both of your yoga blocks. We're basically coming into supported fish, a more restorative version. So rather than kind of a back bend like we began practice, just finding something for a little bit of opening through the front body, but still able to access through the chest, the throat, the belly, and the groin, which is where we're going to be going with our acupressure spots. So for that, I like to have my first block on its mid setting, and that will go between the shoulder blades. And the next block on its highest setting, so more elevated, and that'll be for the back of the head. But you can adjust accordingly and make it unique for your practice. If you'd like to take a deeper back bend, that can be nice. But I will invite you to lengthen the legs because we will be accessing the torso and the groin region through the hips as well. So before we add in any acupressure, I invite you just to see how it feels through that back and that front body. If you feel any pinching or painful sensations on the shoulder blade area, the block may be a little too low, so you might just want to scooch it up more towards the head and then just let it really hold the shoulders rather than have any kind of compression issues. Now we're going to start right on the sternum. Feel free to use fingertips. I like to just make a loose fist and just a gentle tapping right there on the sternum. Acupressure is really helpful for a lot of things, regulating the nervous system. Also, the areas we'll be targeting is great for lymphatics. Lots of benefits, but we're really just targeting the superficial layer beneath the skin, so it doesn't have to be a heavy touch, but think just stimulating that skin layer. And the cadence of your tapping is very personal, so find one that feels nice for you. If tapping doesn't feel helpful, you can also massage. You can also just hold compression. And if none of that feels okay, I invite you just to bring your mental focus to the area of the sternum. And take a couple of deep breaths here. And Just gently start to slow the tapping there. And then you'll probably want both hands for this next one. We're going to come right underneath the clavicle or the collarbones and just about an inch outside the sternum. So for this one, I do like to use 4-finger pads. But again, you can do fist if that's nice, but anywhere underneath the collarbone and to the outside of the sternum. Doesn't need to be overly specific, but just anywhere in this general region. Again, you can tap vigorously and quick or slow and intimate. Whatever feels really helpful for you. And then start to slow that down. And next we're going to move to the neck. So for this one, I like more of a massaging. I'm going to cross my arms. So my right hand is on the left side of my neck. My left hand's on the right side of my neck. And just a gentle massage through the sides of the neck. And again, it's not a very deep touch. It's just that skin layer. Really just looking for this one, just a gentle dragging of the skin downward. If it doesn't feel overwhelming, maybe taking some deep breaths with that as well. And slowly let that go. And we're just going to move up to the face. I'm just going to invite you to do a gentle brushing from the sides of the nose outward towards the ears. It's right underneath the eyes. And again, just this skin layer. And if you've ever done dry brush techniques, it's kind of just that same light touch, but using your fingers instead of a tool. And then that same thing right above the brow along the forehead, starting towards the midline and moving out towards the temples. And then finding this spot right between the eyebrows, and we'll just do a little bit more acupressure. So maybe 1 or 2 fingers just lightly tapping right there on what some call the third eye, but just this area above the and between the eyebrows. Kind of, if you had a third eye, imagine where that would be, and that's where we're tapping. And slowing that down and releasing. And we're going to come down into the abdomen. So anywhere in the torso that feels accessible. And again, you can tap, you can massage, you can just hold and compress, or just bring your mental awareness to focusing on that spot. And taking nice deep breaths. And then slowing that down, and we're going to finish right in the groin. So think right along the iliopsoas, the hip flexors, down into the femoral triangle, and just anywhere in this vicinity. And for this one, it can be really helpful to make fist tapping just because it covers more territory, or maybe it's just a massaging in this area. But for the lymphatics, you also have your inguinal nodes here, so it can be really helpful if we have any kind of swelling in the lower legs to help release through that. And also just the sensation of down regulating the nervous system with acupressure or massage. And then releasing, and we're just gonna finish right back at that sternum where we began with just this gentle tapping, maybe fingertips or that loosely clenched fist. And start to naturally slow the cadence until it comes to a stop and release. And before you come out of this, I invite you to take a moment and just scan the body, feel the vibrations you created. And then we're going to come into Shavasana. So I invite you to take any Shavasana that feels inviting. If you're comfortable in supported fish, feel free to stay there. Or maybe you place something under the knees or something under the head for a little bit of support. Or maybe you lay completely flat and you take it back to basic. You can lay on your belly prone or on your side body. Whatever feels really inviting to you to close your practice. If you have time to linger in Shavasana, I invite you to stay as long as you can. But if it is time to move on with your day, just slowly start to deepen your breath. Maybe just add in a gentle movement through the fingers and toes to start to just reawaken the body. And when you're ready, gently roll onto one side and pause there for a moment. Unless you're staying in Shavasana, then stay as you are. And slowly press yourself up to have a seat. Roll the shoulders or the neck or whatever feels really kind of just inviting to come out of all of that today. And Be well.